In 1940, Donald Kingaby was a sergeant in the Royal Air Force Volunteer Reserve and a fighter pilot in a Spitfire. Today, he writes technical manuals. He lives with his wife and 3 children in London.
After the fall of France, I thought we were in for trouble, big trouble. But Winston Churchill's spirit had its effect on all of us. We knew that we were going to carry on, that we would fight hard, and that somehow we would win.
In 1940, Harry Siegert was a sergeant in the German Luftwaffe and a recent graduate of a bomber school. A former resident of Berlin, Germany, he works today in Los Angeles as a supervisor of computer systems.
My boyhood dream was to fly. It was for me the most beautiful and gratifying experience. Too bad it had to be through war. By the time the war ended, my wounds made flying for me impossible forever. Now I get a feeling of speed and excitement from my boat.
In the skies over war-torn Britain, the lives of Sergeants Kingaby and Siegert will cross. 2 fighting men, 1 British, 1 German, relive that moment in history. I'm Jim Bishop. In the summer of 1940, Adolf Hitler has Europe under his heel. He turns to Great Britain. The English stand alone. The German government makes it clear that surrender terms will not be harsh. But Churchill replies that the British will fight on the beaches, in the villages, and in the fields. Hitler orders his chiefs of staff to complete work on Operation Sea Lion, a detailed plan for the invasion of England. The Battle of Britain has begun. By July, 1,500 German bombers and over 1,000 fighters are concentrated within easy flying distance of the United Kingdom. One of the German airmen who will carry out Goering's orders is Sergeant Harry Siegert, stationed with a bomber squadron near Reims, France.
I would truly like to find a fighting man who isn't afraid of dying. We may feel that we can win the war, but we also know that there can be no victory without suffering and loss of life.
The situation for the British, he is based with the 266th Squadron at Wittering, Tangmere, and Hornchurch.
When I'm flying, I carry a mascot. It's a rabbit's foot. I've had that rabbit's foot with me on every sortie I've flown so far. It is difficult to say how one reacts to the death of a close friend. Certainly one becomes more bitter towards the enemy and more determined to see the thing through, but I try not to let it affect my feelings for long.
No obstacles are allowed to stand in the way of aircraft production. Yet the RAF's operational strength, down to 331 planes after Dunkirk, is now only 620. The RAF's operational strength is increased by a chain of radar stations around the coast. But in other ways as well, Britain is preparing for the inevitable conflict.
It seems to me that we're taking a bit of a beating. I wonder how long we can keep it up. Will we go on fighting in this way for months and months? There are times when I wonder whether we will see it through.
We wonder what the barrage balloons are good for. It is easy to get around them, but if the weather is bad, there is always the chance of running into the cables. I can't say that I have any feelings about the people down there. I can't say that I feel sorry. I'm too busy flying my machine. All I think about is reaching the target. I am not over here to kill. I'm over here to do the best I can for Germany.
By the end of July, Britain still dominates the skies, although they have been forced to cancel all sailings through the channel during daylight.
I think the German pilots as a whole are most confident and experienced. People say that we break their formations up quickly. This isn't quite so. The Germans fight to the best of their ability as long as their fuel allows them to stay over our territory. I'm talking mainly about the fighter pilots. I have a feeling that the bomber crews are more regimented and depend entirely on their leader. When he's knocked out, there seems to be a lack of cohesion amongst the remainder of their formation. They tend to scatter and make themselves more vulnerable.
We don't underestimate the English pilot. He is well trained and has a lot of fighting spirit. But I think our flying ability really surprises them.
Craft often weave into airy, intriguing patterns. If we can, we fly just below the height at which they form so that we won't betray our position to the enemy.
Our only defense against the enemy fighter plane are our 3 machine guns. They aim for the cockpit and wings, hoping to set the plane on fire.
In a dogfight, it's the devil of a job to control your own excitement and apprehension so that you think and fly correctly. You don't think much about the chap in the other plane. You weave, twist, and turn to guard your own tail and wonder how long you dare fly straight and steady enough to shoot your target down. You can lose a lot of weight in a dogfight in a very short time.
By August, Goering estimates that he needs only 4 days to put the English fighter planes out of action. He begins the preparation of Adlertag, or the Eagle attack, an operation intended as a knockout blow to the RAF. It is decided that the attack will commence on August 13th. For the first time in history, a great campaign is going to be fought and decided in the air.
We generally start our morning flights about 4 a.m. By the time we have breakfast, the planes have been serviced. We wonder if today we will have fighter escort and how long they will stay with us. Over England, we always have to fight low clouds. We do a lot of instrument flying.
The bad weather and unexpected opposition, they managed to hit airdromes, dockyards, and aircraft factories. But in the process, they lose 45 of their aircraft against a British loss of only 13. days later, on August 15th, Goering again puts his squadrons in the air. He hopes that the heavy fighting of the 13th has so severely depleted the RAF that gaps will be left in their defenses. On this day, the Luftwaffe has made its biggest effort, nearly 1,800 sorties. They had expected an all-out victory. Instead, Adlertag is a failure. After a brief lull due to bad weather, the Luftwaffe again attacks with renewed vigor. For the British, the situation is becoming daily more serious. They are still shooting down more enemy planes than they themselves lose, but the margin is not a big one. They have now come to a point where the loss of a single plane, the death or wounding of one pilot, represents an important setback. In London and throughout all of England, the outcome of each day's battle is awaited with intense concern. The Germans continue to hammer away at the sector stations, the nerve centers of the RAF command. The repair and maintenance squadrons do their best with the overused aircraft. But it is the loss in pilots that is irreparable. Fighter command strength had stood at 1,400 pilots at the end of July. 3 weeks later, it has fallen to 1,000. Slowly, the pilot forces are being bled to death. Slowly, the communication systems and airfields are being battered to bits. Slowly, the pilot reserves are reaching dangerous lows. Now the question is, how much longer can fighter command hold out? How much longer before the Luftwaffe deals its final crushing blow? At this moment, when things are at their darkest, an incident occurs that causes a dramatic change in the German plans. At the moment when the fortunes of war seem to be tilting slowly but inexorably in favor of the Germans, something happens which sets off a train of events that alters the whole course of the war. On August 24th, 200 German bombers are sent to attack targets in widely separated parts of England and Wales. The pilots do not have orders to bomb London, but, in fact, bombs are dropped on the city.
Accidental bombing? Of course, anything is possible. But I do not think that any pilot in the German Air Force would do such a thing. Considering our military discipline, I can't believe it.
Whether this bombing is due to faulty navigation, inexperience, or irresponsibility is not known. But the fact remains, London has been bombed. British bombers are immediately ordered on a retaliatory raid to bomb Berlin the following night. The effect of this raid on Hitler is out of all proportion to the damage done. He has boasted that bombs would never be dropped on Berlin. In a speech on September 4th, he swears devastating reprisals. If they attack our cities, we will rub their cities from the map. Thus, the Luftwaffe is obliged to switch the offensive from the RAF to the city of London. Hitler believes that a prolonged bombing of London will cause panic and mass hysteria among the population. But the result is that attacks are lifted from the airfields and sector stations at a crucial moment. In this breathing space, the RAF is able to repair the damage done on their facilities and equipment, and to take the pressure off their fighter pilots. One more week of attacks might have led to disaster. Now there is time for the RAF to reconsolidate its forces. Late in the afternoon of Saturday, September 7th, this new phase of German strategy is launched. From a forward air base, Goering himself watches the flights take off toward the English coast. It is a time chosen to catch the English workers on their way home. 100 tons of high explosives and many thousands of incendiaries are dropped on London within an hour and a half. Started in this raid cannot be put out before more bombers arrive later that night with another load. Between 5 o'clock on this Saturday evening and 3 o'clock the following morning, German bombs kill 1,000 Londoners. Goering is prompted to announce on the German radio, "This is an historic hour. Our Air Force has delivered its thrust right into the enemy's heart." It is true. London's heart has been damaged, but it has not stopped beating. It is felt that because of the size of this raid, the German invasion is imminent. Still, the first requirement for a successful invasion has not been met. Fighter command has not been defeated. Hitler decides to await the outcome of the next few days. The outcome is that fewer than half the German bombers succeed in dropping their bombs. Hitler, still hoping that the British will crumble under the repeated air attacks on their capital, again postpones his decision to invade. He has been assured that air supremacy is almost within his grasp. A victory must be forced with no more delay. Goering picks Sunday, September 15th as the day of reckoning. The morning of September 15th turns out to be ideal flying weather. At about 10:30 a.m., the radar warning system picks up enemy planes gathering over the French coast. To the waiting English pilots, the German armadas appear to stretch from horizon to horizon. After the first attack by the British planes, the mighty formations begin to lose cohesion.
Every single aircraft is engaged, and there is nothing left on the ground in the way of reserves. But the Luftwaffe is taking a beating. They aren't getting away scot-free.
We keep on firing as the fighters close in. We shoot back with everything we have.
This great battle, which was to have crushed fighter command, proves instead a shattering blow to the German airmen. The Luftwaffe has been routed. Again, the gamble is lost. On September 17th, Hitler postpones Operation Sea Lion until further notice.
I had a plane loaded with paratroops, all crack troops, veterans of Rotterdam. The invasion being cancelled is a big disappointment to all of us.
But the British cannot know the extent of their victory, for a new phase of the battle has begun. The German Luftwaffe has set out with vengeance to destroy London. Night after night, until well in November, London is bombed unmercifully. After 57 days of consecutive bombardment, London proves she can take it. By November, the night raids are expanded to include the industrial cities of Britain. Coventry is viciously attacked on November 14th, as are Bristol, Southampton, and Liverpool.
We are hit. I call to the rest of the crew for damage reports. No one answers. The machine will not react. It's hard to fly.
The Blitz will continue well into May 1941. Then it will cease, as suddenly as it has begun. Sergeant Harry Siegert, after being hit over Coventry, is shot down by a Spitfire over the Channel. He will spend many weeks in a German hospital. Later, he fights at Stalingrad and the Battle of the Bulge, and is captured by the Russians in 1945. Sergeant Donald Kingaby pilots numerous missions for the Royal Air Force and is credited with 23 enemy aircraft brought down. During the Battle of Britain, the Luftwaffe lost over 2,300 aircraft. The British lost 600 fighters. The citizens of Britain paid an even greater price. So concludes history's last great air duels.
London, heart of man's mightiest commonwealth of nations, where millions struggle that human free will shall not vanish from the earth. London, where the fate of the world revolves around the proud spires of St. Paul's and the Towers. As the jaunty New Zealanders march from Guildhall, one might well imagine that the Empire is at peace instead of at war. At the Royal Exchange, colonial troops entertain atop an air raid shelter. For a year, London has awaited the threatened blitzkrieg of the dictator who assumes divinity while inflicting devilish cruelty. Denied their annual vacations, carefree Londoners take to city pools as substitutes for the more elegant seaside attractions of Ramsgate and Brighton. It is the lull before the storm. A city of initials, London is ready for Goering's threatened total air war. A city of sandbags. The determination of strong hearts is encased in these sandbags to protect lives and property, statues and public buildings, especially to protect the home of the premiers on Downing Street. Rigid police rules guard the entrance to number 10, the premier's official domain. Admiralty Arch is guarded by soldiers instead of sailors, but Trafalgar Square is open to all. Colonial troops loll about with sleepy indifference, making friends with doves and lovey-doves. while from a lofty perch a visiting band plays lively airs for a cosmopolitan audience. Jack Tars and Tommies join the general sit-around, while the appeasers predict that Nazis will not dare to bomb London. At London Bridge in town and at Stable Inn with its old gardens, London is normal everywhere. Little does this great city of 1 million homes realize the impending disaster. The war seems 1 million miles away. History is made in the stillness of the night. Keen-eyed spotters scan the night sky, and mechanical ears are always on the alert. Searchlights swing into action as silver pencils of light grope the clouds for possible raiders. Then terror on wings. Flying devils of war lunge at the heart of humanity. The sirens dread along. Now the heroic RAF Spitfires leap into action. Through the darkness, hurl the bomb. With tongues of flame spurting from incendiary fires along the waterfront, trembling babies cower in their frightened mothers' arms, and the injured shriek amid the weird clamor of London's frightful disaster. The morning after finds a different London. That first staggering assault, a brutal war on nerves, proved the English have nerves. St. Paul's, that was later ruined by bombs, looks down on an inferno of desolation. London's morale was Hitler's objective, but in one night London becomes a city of fighters, frontline fighters, firemen, and the home guard, with pickaxe, fire hose, and courage. Destruction everywhere. Walls and windows are shattered, but not the morale. So London comes up smiling. With bulldog tradition, all London carries on. It's just another day for busy people with tired eyes and strong hearts. The great metropolis is again serene, while hurrying crowds afoot and awheel give little signs of defeat. These Londoners are going to their daily work after a frightful smear of hate in history's most gruesome warfare, the unequal war of civilians against soaring demons of the air. And the ravagers of cities who slaughter the unarmed may come again tonight and tomorrow night. Hit-back posters announce the bravery of London, which sets itself to carry on. A member of the AFS rescues a wax figure as carefully as he would a strawberry blonde. Shops reopen almost before incendiary fires cool. Undaunted merchants rise above Holocaust horror to maintain business as usual. They cannot stop the new windows, of course, but mix optimism with grit in keeping things moving. It wasn't only the West End that got all the blasting. Here south of the Thames suffered more. Lambeth Walk, with real Cockney humor, keeps smiling. Where ale is a tonic for the tongue, lads and lassies slur their enemies with sizzling contempt. Every blitz deserves a blister, says the Limehouse philosopher, while raising funds for Spitfires give every enemy bomber the machine gun hot tail. Anything from a German helmet to grandmother's shawl is in the rummage sale for the Spitfire Fund. And nearby is a fallen plane, which is a great attraction, one of Goering's yellow jackets that found British bullets too much for it. There's no argument about it, a Messerschmitt is a paying attraction. Precaution against a ton of high explosives menacing a beautiful cathedral. London's newly formed bomb squad, handling terrific potential death, cools off a time bomb. Facing eternity every time they perform a task like this, the members of the Suicide Squad are outstanding heroes among a city of heroes. The monument marking the site of the start of the first great fire of London 400 years ago sees this new fire at its very base. The great fire of 1666 beat the firemen, but today the firemen beat the fire. The famous Church of St. John the Evangelist, again surrounded by flames. But this time the church is saved, together with its priceless stained glass windows. London was starving, but here they are given the lie direct, with the full force of Billingsgate colorful language. Thousands of Britons fond of seafood are fed from this rich bounty of the sea, and the clutching crabs are always a popular delicacy. Billingsgate horses grow mustaches, as much a tradition as the porter's leather helmets now being replaced by metal mushrooms. Packing up bloaters that no longer are floaters is a joy with a good mug of beer. Workers gaze at the newest military target. Of course, a ruthless foe that gobbles up small nations doesn't hesitate about blasting a London gas main. But without gas or shop, the coffee shop man renders his patrons the latest air-conditioned service. And why not? Sidewalk dining was popular in the West End long before the Blitz. Jellied eels never tasted so well indoors as they do in the fresh air, or a spot of tea either, especially under the portals of London's other St. Paul's in Covent Garden, where every porter carries his head as high as his courage. Vegetables are important British needs, and here trade carries on, with cats a part of the market family. Moaning Minnie, the air raid siren blares again. Jim Crow, the observer aloft, scans the heavens with sharp eyes. But no longer does London stop at every alert signal. The country's needs rise above fear and personal danger. Only when the attack is near is a signal given to take cover. All eyes look upward. There's trouble in the air. A flock of Messerschmitts swoop down to drop steel and fire on London. Tracer bullets, like avenging fingers, point out the raiders. A breathtaking spectacle. The most exciting actual battle scenes ever photographed. Balloons are targets for Swift-Stuka dive bombers that spatter machine gun slugs. A bomber is hit and flops over in the last dive it will ever take. Terror brings glory. The ambulance corps are heroes of every emergency. An all-clear signal. The plunderers of peace have gone, and London is itself again. But the anti-aircraft gunners have an all-around-the-clock job. Bertha, the barrage balloon, lazily returns to Earth for inspection and perhaps for repairs from machine gun bullets. Nazi flyers trapped by searchlights or foiled by a terrific anti-aircraft barrage plunge to Earth in dozens. Heinkels everywhere, but they will never fly again. A direct denial of the squadron's illustrated boast showing its eagle mascot defeating a lion. Women and children first seemed the Nazi Air Force motto. Hospitals were not spared, and pallid invalids turned out of their beds bear their multiplied dangers as bravely as Nurse Cabell faced her executioners in 1915. Even churches are desecrated in the frightful scourge of hate. Holy faces on saintly images stare in mute disapproval at the abomination of cruelty. Lordly edifices that were the wonder of the world are dashed to dust, while hell seems to spew forth the venom of murder. Bravely, London fights back. The tireless rescuers search ruins for the victims. Consider London, a city of homes, of fathers, mothers, and children, of millions strong in sublime family love, living in homes that are mansions of the rich and homes of the poor, many homes now ruined, where once the old sat peacefully in cozy corners and new life flowed from mothers' breasts into the mouths of their babies. The light of day is fading, and workers with uncertain transportation hurry home, or down to the home of the homeless in the clattering subway, where hundreds huddle together and are able to smile even on a bed of concrete. The way to safety, downstairs to a bed in a days of fearful childhood. Guns that battered Napoleon's army are to be made into new instruments of defense, to be again melted into steel, steel to make guns, steel to make shells, shells that are fast becoming a Nazi nightmare. With the machinery of industry geared full speed ahead, master and men are welded together for the common welfare of the nation. Work is unceasing, work that is vital, work that is constructive, work that is destructive. Britain's guardians are prepared. They will not fail. And while the city sleeps, its defenders start the noisy lullaby of London. London's trust is rich with hope, for the democracies of the world are uniting, and free men like an avalanche are gathering to crush tyranny. Yes, civilization hangs in the balance, but civilization will endure because while London can take it, London can give it too.
From dusk to dawn, any day, all day, any night, all night, for 80 days and 80 nights. You're an office worker coming home around 6, and this is your house. You're a passenger on a cross-town bus, and this is the end of your last trip. You're a kid at school, and this is your lesson for the day. You're an airman on leave, and this is your welcome mat. You're a diner in a restaurant, and this is where you had your last bite. You're a patient in a hospital, and this is your final treatment. You're a worshiper in a church, and this is where you kneeled and never got up again. Yes, London suffered under V1. 23,000 buildings utterly destroyed. 1 million damaged. Over 5,000 lives lost. Over 16,000 broken. But London worked. You're a member of a heavy rescue squad, and you dig with your hands to save a life. You're an attendant in a first aid station, and you haven't slept for 3 days. You're a GIMP, and you break patrol to help the London bobby. You're the man on the street, and you do what you can. London suffered, and London worked. and London fought. You're part of the crew of an Ack-Ack battery on the south coast, and you can't close your eyes. In the 80 days of the V-1 Blitz, you bring down more than 1,500 bombs with Ack-Ack. Work hard down on the south coast, in the white sun and gray mist, and in the nervous night. You're a member of a unit in the balloon barrage. In the 80 days, you bring down nearly 300 buzz bombs with only steel cables stretched in the sky. You're the pilot of a Tempest or a Mustang or a new type of Spitfire splitting through space. And you bring down nearly 2,000 pilotless bombers in the 80 days. And it isn't easy. Yes, you fight back and you bring them out in the thousands. But some get through to the villages and towns of southern England, and some get through to London. And their numbers are also in the thousands. They come droning and sputtering and roaring, and you don't know when they'll suddenly stop and drop on you. You're a farm laborer, and it's like sitting in the dentist chair when they come over, only worse. You're a hairdresser in for a swim on Sunday afternoon. It's like seeing snakes if you don't like snakes, only worse. You're a citizen of southern England, and it's a matter of life and death. Your life and your death. You're a roof spotter or any kind of spotter, and there's nothing you can do except watch out for them and pray. London wasn't doomed, as Dr. Goebbels said, and London wasn't finished. But London was hurt. 50% of V-1's total of 8,000 launchings were brought down. But there was death and pain and chaos. Schools, hospitals, churches, time-famed landmarks were high among Adolf Hitler's targets of blind chance. Women and children headed the casualty lists. The city was hurt, but the city will heal. The people of London, of all England, are beginning the work of reconstruction now, are on the job at this moment. Nearly 100,000 of them. $150 million tiles and slates are on order for buildings like these, and 200 million square feet of ceiling and wallboard, 50 million square feet of glass. Winter is here, and once again, thousands are the figures. Tens of thousands haven't any homes in England. Home is where you hang your heart. And the people of a great city and a great land are at work, patient and enduring, knowing that their sons and their daughters are the future of a noble nation.
I'm speaking from London. It is late afternoon, and the people of London are preparing for the night. Everyone is anxious to get home before darkness falls, before our nightly visitors arrive. This is the London rush hour. Many of the people at whom you are looking now are members of the greatest civilian army to London to pick up the drone of the German planes. Soon the nightly battle of London will be on. This has been a quiet day for us, but it won't be a quiet night. We haven't had a quiet night now for more than 5 weeks. They'll be over tonight, and they'll destroy a few buildings and kill a few people, probably some of the people you are watching now. Now they're going into the public shelters. This is not a pleasant way to spend the night, but the people accept it as their part in the defense of London. These civilians are good soldiers. Now it's 8 o'clock. Jerry is a little bit late tonight. The searchlights are in position. The guns are ready. The People's Army of Volunteers is ready. They are the ones who are really fighting this war. The firemen, the air raid wardens, the ambulance drivers. And there's the wail of the Banshee. The nightly siege of London has begun. The city is dressed for battle. Here they come. Now the searchlights are poking long, white, inquisitive fingers into the blackness of the night. These are not Hollywood sound effects. This is the music they play every night in London. The symphony of war. That was a bomb. Very young and the very old, with that deep wisdom given only to the very young and the very old, sleep in the shelters. Do you see any signs of fear on these faces? Now the army of the people swings into action. The bombs have started fires. When the bomber starts a fire, he immediately returns, uses it as a target, and drops more bombs, hoping to spread the fire. Yet the People's Army ignores the bombs and the spent shrapnel which rains down constantly. Brokers, clerks, peddlers, merchants by day. They are heroes by night. The night is long. But sooner or later, the dawn will come. The German bombers are creatures of the night. They melt away before the dawn and scurry back to the safety of their own airdromes. And there's the wail of the Banshee again. This time a friendly wail. The all-clear signal tells us that the bombers have gone. It's just 6 a.m. In this last hour of precious sleep, this strange new world finds peace. London raises her head, shakes the debris of the night from her hair, and takes stock of the damage done. London has been hurt during the night. The sign of a great fighter in the ring is, can he get up from the floor after being knocked down? London does this every morning. London doesn't look down upon the ruins of its houses, upon those made homeless during the night, upon the remains of churches, hospitals, workers' flats. London looks upwards toward the dawn and faces the new day with calmness and confidence. The People's Army go to work as they did in that other comfortable world which came to an end when the invader began to attack the last strongholds of freedom. Not all the services run as they did yesterday, but London manages to get to work on time, one way or another. In the center of the city, the shops are open as usual. In fact, many of them are more open than usual. Dr. Paul Joseph Gibbles said recently that the nightly air raids have had a terrific effect upon the morale of the people of London. The good doctor is absolutely right. Today, the morale of the people is higher than ever before. They are fused together, not by fear, but by a surging spirit of courage the like of which the world has never known. They know that thousands of them will die, but they would rather stand up and face death than kneel down and face the kind of existence the conqueror would impose upon them. And they know, too, and are comforted by the thought that England is not taking its beating lying down. They are guarding the frontiers of freedom. It is hard to see 5 centuries of labor destroyed in 5 seconds. But London is fighting back. And they know that every night the RAF bombers fly deep into the heart of Germany, bombing munition works, airplane factories, canals, cutting the arteries which keep the heart of Germany alive. It is true that the Nazis will be over again tomorrow night, and the night after that, and every night. They will drop thousands of bombs, and they'll destroy hundreds of buildings, and they'll kill thousands of people. But a bomb has its limitations. It can only destroy buildings and kill people. It cannot kill the unconquerable spirit and courage of the people of London. London can take it.
And our fleet carriers went into action for the first time. Behind their achievements was the calculated bravery of 1,000 pilots with their air crews and floating airfields.
There was a time when airships, blimps as they were called, were used as the eyes of the fleet. Then, almost exactly half a century ago, a seaplane took off, crashed, and was ignominiously recovered. Then another seaplane took off, flew, and landed without mishap. So with this encouragement, 4 naval officers were chosen from 200 volunteers and taught to fly. From then on, flying machines, as they used to be called, developed steadily. The naval diehards frowned and scoffed, but the far-sighted, imaginative few saw a new era dawning in sea war. How right they were. For no sooner had aircraft become established as the eyes of the fleet than they developed a sting as well. The branch that sprouted from the naval tree the day those 4 aviators got their flying certificates from the Royal Aero Club was first of all part of the Royal Flying Corps. Then it became the Royal Naval Air Service. Then it was absorbed by the Royal Air Force. And finally, on the eve of World War II, it became the Fleet Air Arm, under the full control of the Admiralty. Meanwhile, not only the seaplane, but every other type of flying machine, even those that looked as if they were driven by elastic, began to interest the Navy. But soon the float plane was voted too delicate. What the Navy wanted to extend the eyes of the fleet was something which could fly off warships at sea and help the big guns onto their targets. Why not a makeshift airstrip on the guns themselves? It was tried, and it worked. So far, so good. But what about recovering pilot and plane in mid-ocean? The first pilot to try and solve this one was Squadron Leader E.A. Dunning, who landed his biplane successfully on the deck of a ship as far back as August 1917. But Dunning was not satisfied, and he tried again without the help of a handling party. Unfortunately, he burst a tire, fell over the side, and was killed. Nevertheless, his daring feat had taken root. Deck landing had started. Now the interest centered on landing aircraft on ships. From World War I, the aircraft carrier emerged. The battle cruiser Furious was decked over. Later, her sister ships, the Courageous and Glorious, followed suit. The cruiser Vindictive was half converted. The Argus, laid down as a merchantman, had the first completely flush deck and took her place with the fleet at the first Spithead review between the two wars. The Eagle was there too. She was the first warship designed and built as a carrier. About this time, there were other developments. The Queen Bee, a completely radio-controlled plane, was tried out. So were the first anti-aircraft guns afloat. Meanwhile, the tough amphibious Walrus had developed from the seaplane. That was the stage the newly formed Fleet Air Arm had reached when World War II broke out. The problem of floating aerodromes was still only half solved. With the impetus of war, research and investigation forged ahead. In a Scottish loch, a floating pontoon airstrip called Lily was tried out. As soon as aircraft proved their value against U-boats, dual-purpose merchant ships called MAC ships appeared. MAC stood for Merchant Aircraft Carrier. The ships carried grain and cargo below and a few aircraft on the roof. From MAC ships to escort carriers. These were lightly built on a merchant ship hull, with lift and hangar to house a squadron of torpedo bombers and fighters. These were the ships that were to play such a vital role in the Atlantic battle and on the Russian convoy run. Soon after the outbreak of World War II, the old but valuable Courageous and Glorious were sunk. The Ark Royal was the only first-line fleet carrier in the world. As the war progressed, the Navy's need for carriers increased. Our enemies extended their coastline and multiplied their airfields. We had to take our planes with us, refit them, and keep them flying. Pilots, air crews, fitters, and ship's crews were all in it together. And carriers often had their attendant escorts to look after as well. Although the modern carrier was not yet on the horizon, equipment and technique advanced in leaps and bounds. More and more planes were getting into the air quicker and quicker. The planes themselves learned to unfold their wings and to fold them again. The batsman helped to land every single plane. Little did he know that one day he would be replaced by mirrors. Old catapults, the came new accelerators, which meant that carriers no longer had to go careering off into the wind to fly off their planes. But one particular type of aircraft survived all these changes. It was the Fairey Swordfish. The string bag, as it was affectionately called. This 150-knot open cockpit two-seater biplane was obsolescent at birth, but never obsolete. Some people were astonished that such a museum piece should ever be in the front line. But it flew through desert sandstorms, and it flew through Arctic blizzards. It carried torpedoes, bombs, rockets, radar, or motorbikes. Sometimes the aerodynamic experts were staggered at the performance of this winged Christmas tree. One flew with 5 Frenchmen as well as its crew. Another spent the equivalent of 9 weeks in the air. The string bag took part in countless strikes and raids, 2 of which I will tell you about later. Bigger, faster, longer-range planes came and went, but the string bag was the only aeroplane that saw both ends of World War II from the air. Then there were the men who flew. Not many to start with. The briefing they got was sometimes pretty brief. But gradually, pilots and air crews came in from Canada, Australia, and New Zealand to fill the gaps and swell the ranks. Fleet Air Arm operations were stepped steadily up and up. So was the flak that they had to fly through. There is no place quite like the flight deck of a carrier. Those who work there are not all concerned with flying, but every landing, every takeoff, every fighter that goes screeching past at deck level is an event which concerns everyone. Especially the batsman, who urges every pilot into position. But sometimes the matter is beyond the batsman's control. Sometimes the plane lands on its nose. Or crash lands after being damaged. As soon as the pilot is extracted and the fire extinguished, over it goes. There's no room for cross. Sometimes the barrier, stretched across to protect waiting aircraft, stops a plane. No wonder carrier captains look a bit harassed now and then. Apart from flight deck flutters, there are other anxious moments when pilots can't even reach the carrier. There is only one fate for a plane in mid-ocean with a dry tank. But happily, the pilot is often picked up by an escort and returned in good shape. And these setbacks don't compare with the pilots who land safe and happy and bring home stories about the one that got away. Compress all you have seen into one ship. A ship which was the last word in aircraft carriers at the outbreak of World War II. 27,000 tons, 800 feet by 100, built to carry 1,500 men and 72 aircraft. Here is the story of that ship, HMS Ark Royal. Launched in April 1937, taken over by the Navy 20 months later, Britain led the world with this ship, which embodied all that had been learnt about flying at sea since those pioneer days. She was the third Ark Royal in British naval history, and certainly the most appropriately named. A steel box rising 60 feet from the sea with an overhanging roof. A factory hangar, office block, hotel, all in one, which could move at 32 knots and was covered with a 2-acre, well-defended airstrip. When war breaks out, the Ark is with the home fleet. From the outset, she becomes the #1 target for German bombers, and also for Lord Haw Haw, that German radio announcer who periodically says, "Germany calling. Britons, ask your Admiralty, where is the Ark Royal?" The Ark Royal is busy. First she steams down into the South Atlantic, searching miles and miles of ocean with the German pocket battleship Graf von Spee. The Ark is an ungainly sight at sea level, but pilots say that you have to be lost in the Atlantic without much petrol left to realize how beautiful she looks from above. Graf Spee is not sighted. The Germans invade Norway. The Ark leaves the tropics and heads for the Arctic. She rejoins the home fleet. Her planes strike at enemy shipping in Norwegian fjords. Enemy territory. When Norway is evacuated, she covers the returning convoys. Then she sails south to form an important part of what is to become the famous Force H, a powerful squadron under Admiral Somerville, well placed at Gibraltar to face trouble either in the Mediterranean or the Atlantic. Her first sortie is to Oran. There she has the unenviable role of watching the big guns of her squadron pounding anchored French warships, rather than allow them to come under German control. Then, after covering convoys and supplies to Malta, the Ark sails for Dakar to take part in a second bid for the remains of the French fleet. After that, home, 7 days well-earned leave. In the first year of war, this ship had steam up for 300 days and had traveled a distance of more than 4 times round the world. Back in the Mediterranean, with Italy now in the war, the Ark Royal is second only to Malta as an enemy objective. Bombs rain down on her. Although her fighters do their best, a great deal depends on her anti-aircraft guns and the men who man them. She is missed again and again, sometimes by a few feet. Once more, Lord Haw Haw starts asking, where is the Ark Royal? Then, out goes Force H into the Atlantic after the German battle cruisers Scharnhorst and Gneisenau, who have broken out and are causing havoc among Allied merchant shipping. On this occasion, a plane sights the enemy momentarily in bad visibility, but too late to attack. The German ships escape into Brest. At 22 minutes past 7, on the evening of the 23rd of May 1941, the British cruiser Suffolk makes this signal from way up in the Denmark Strait between Iceland and Greenland. 1 battleship, 1 cruiser in sight. The Admiralty orders Force H at Gibraltar to raise steam for full speed. The 2 ships the Suffolk has reported are the German battleship Bismarck and the cruiser Prince Eugen. When clear of Gibraltar, Admiral Somerville detaches his destroyer escort and presses on into the northerly gale. Was there ever such an improbable airstrip as the flight deck of the Ark Royal as she battered her way through the gale? Yet it was almost as bad for fleet carrier Victorious, racing westward with the home fleet. Not only, however, did the Victorious manage to fly off a strike of swordfish, but they found their target. Unfortunately, this torpedo hit did not stop the Bismarck. She evades her shadowers and disappears. After a tense, desperate search, the Bismarck is spotted by a Catalina aircraft from Coastal Command. Ark Royal swordfish are soon on the spot, but through a classic misunderstanding, their first torpedo strike is directed at the British cruiser Sheffield. The Sheffield manages to avoid these torpedoes, but signals exchanged afterwards between Sheffield and Ark Royal make the signal lamps overheat. Then the Ark Royal launches a second strike. It is now evening, the gale is still blowing. This time, one of the string bag's torpedoes hits the Bismarck aft, smashing her rudder and sealing her fate. Next day, the home fleet finish her off. By the time the Ark returns to Gibraltar, everyone knows the part she has played and gives her a great welcome. Throughout 1941, the Ark helps to fight convoys and supplies through to Malta. Then, as she returns from a ferry trip with the old carrier Argus after flying 37 Hurricanes off to Malta, she is struck by 3 torpedoes fired by U-81. At first, it looks as though she could be patched up enough to make Gibraltar. But water pours in, the list increases. Bit by bit, her machinery fades. At 6 o'clock on the morning of November the 14th, only 30 miles from Gibraltar, she rolls over onto her side and slides down on her last journey of 1,000 fathoms. So died the most famous of all the British aircraft carriers, leaving behind her an imperishable memory. In a previous episode, I told you how an aircraft from the carrier Formidable stopped the Italian cruiser Pola, which led to the British victory off Cape Matapan. Now I would like to pick out 2 other remarkable fleet air-arm achievements, one in Norway and one in the Mediterranean. In the early spring of 1944, a large British carrier force approaches the Norwegian coast unseen. The objective? The German battleship Tirpitz, lying in Altenfjord. 163 Fleet Air Arm pilots and observers, many of whom are from Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, have been practicing this operation for weeks over a Scottish loch. Before dawn on this lovely, calm April morning, 2 strikes, each of 21 Barracuda bombers and 40 fighters, take off, form up, and head for the Norwegian mountains. As they converge on Altenfjord, the Tirpitz is getting underway. She is sailing for her first sea trials after damage caused by British midget submarines the previous September. Without any warning, the British planes suddenly appear from all directions. Surprise is complete. Timing immaculate. 14 bomb hits cause complete confusion. 122 dead, 316 wounded, including the captain. All is over in 1 minute. Only 1 Barracuda is shot down. Back goes the Tirpitz onto the lame duck list. Now from the snow-capped mountains of Norway to one of Italy's main naval bases, Taranto, in November 1940. On board the carrier Illustrious, air crews are being carefully briefed. 21 Swordfish are about to take off in 2 waves, half an hour apart. Most of these string bags are to be armed with torpedoes, but some will carry bombs and others flares. As Illustrious will be 200 miles from the target at the time of takeoff, the string bags have to carry long-range petrol tanks as well. At 8:30 p.m. on November the 12th, the Illustrious turns into the wind, and away goes strike number 1. You will see from this model of Taranto Harbor that it is divided into 2 halves. In Mar Piccolo, the inner harbor, cruisers and destroyers are berthed here and here. Dividing them from Mar Grande is the dockyard town of Taranto. In the main harbor, there are 6 battleships, including the 2 latest 35,000-ton Littorio class. There are anti-torpedo nets here, barrage balloons moored to lighters here, more barrage balloons along here. There are flagships moored in the harbor, and round the perimeter are strong AA batteries. The Italians have no radar, but there is a network of sound locators linked up with the batteries. The air defense of Taranto, Il Duce thinks, is strong enough for him to put all his naval eggs in one basket. Just before 11 p.m., strike number 1 is located to the westward. flares start to float down, over here to the eastward, while the torpedo bombers glide down to masthead level and approach the anchorage from here, with the Italian warships silhouetted against the flares and the moonlight. Ship and shore batteries open up. The whole harbor becomes an inferno, but these stately string bags press on through flak, scraping past balloon cables to score 2 torpedo hits on the Littorio and another on the Conte di Cavour. At the same time, bomb carriers attack the ships in Mar Piccolo. It's all over in a few minutes, but scarcely had the sound of these aircraft engines died away than more flares appear to the eastward. In comes strike number 2. This time, the torpedo bombers come in over Cape Rondinella. The AA barrage breaks out with renewed vigor. Everything but the kitchen stove is thrown into the air. But like their predecessors, in come more swordfish at 0 feet, wading and jinking through it all. Strike 2, score a 3rd torpedo hit on the Littorio, and another fatal one on the Caio Duilio. The bombers hit the seaplane sheds, the oil tanks, and more ships in Mar Piccolo. Number 1 strike leader was shot down into the harbor, but the pilot and observer were picked up and taken prisoner. 1 swordfish of the 2nd strike was never seen again. 1 battleship sunk, 2 others knocked out for the rest of the war. The Italian Navy's battleship strength halved, other ships and installation damaged, and all for the loss of 2 swordfish and 1 crew. This bid by 21 swordfish from HMS Illustrious impressed the whole world, including the Japanese. For there is little doubt that the attack launched 13 months later on the American fleet at Pearl Harbor was based on this Fleet Air Arm visit to Taranto that moonlit night.
How are they coming along?
Well, not too bad. Quarter decent negative.
Rightio. Get them along to the squadron leader as soon as they're done.
All right. Prints from the last sortie, sir.
Thank you. What are they like?
Very good, sir.
Thank you very much. That's fine. This looks pretty good. I really think we have got something this time. Donald, would you get me the Freihausen file, please?
Certainly, sir.
You know, this is most interesting. They've done a most tremendous amount here. It's a colossal installation now. Let's have a look at that file. Thank you. Remember, we saw it about 3 months ago. Quite a small little place, nothing much happening. Just a wood. Here we are. You can see just small sidings and an empty wood, practically no traffic, no barges, and nothing. But now, look at it. Quite different. Greatly extended sidings, oil tanks along a row by this railway line, pipelines coming out of the wood where there are more installations, coming down to these barges in the river. And it's very big.
It certainly is a peach of a target, isn't it, sir?
It's just what the CNC must have. Now, look, if you'll write the analysis, I'll get on with the intelligence report for him.
Certainly, sir.
Thank you very much.
Good morning. The Met Officer confirms the good weather forecast for tonight, sir.
Right. Then we'll go ahead with our maximum effort. Controller, warn all groups to carry out Operation K tonight.
Yes, sir.
The thing here I think you ought to see, sir.
Yes?
Bomber command to all groups. Targets for tonight. Maximum effort tonight. Town 434, Germany. Target, naval docks and barracks.
Let's go and have a look at the map. Controller, get me AOC 33 group.
Yes, sir. That's the spot, sir.
Yeah.
You're through to AOC 33 group, sir.
Thank you, Maitland. I've just been looking at the photographs of Freihausen. They confirm exactly what we thought. I want you to divert one squadron on this target tonight. An experienced squadron which will go in low. That's it. I'll send you the photographs immediately.
Give me all stations.
Yes, sir.
Stand by all stations for the AOC. I'm putting you through now.
434. That's Kiel, isn't it?
Yes, sir. You're through, sir.
Maximum effort tonight on Kiel. Objective, naval docks and barracks. I want every available aircraft on this target. Have you got that? Right. In addition, Millerton will provide one squadron to attack the new oil storage and tankers at Freihausen. Freihausen. You get full details and photographs from intelligence. That's all.
Right, sir.
Get me the intelligence room, please. Ask the wing commander to come in.
Yes, sir.
Hello, intelligence room. The group captain wants you.
Yes, sir. Freihausen, sir? It's on the Rhine, sir. It's the old man, Jimmy. Yes, sir? Yes, sir. It's on the right bank. About 15 miles north of Freiburg, in the Black Forest.
What I want is target information. The latest target maps. Any recent photographs showing the new oil tanks and storage.
That's our objective, briefing at 2:30.
That? What's it got that Ham hasn't got?
Well, that's a good thing.
I haven't been off the ground for a week.
It's all very well for you. I had a party tonight.
Well, that saves your headache.
Thank you very much.
That's a fine thing. That's the second time in for nuts has been washed out.
If you were a better navigator, you'd go oftener.
Listen, Jock, who was it didn't know whether they over Hanover or Hampton Court?
That's a joke.
Joke my eye.
Hello, Bobby. Here's your orders.
All right, thank you.
Operations tonight, fellas. How do you know? Oh, I'll get around. I'll get all the gen.
Hey, Conley, what's the odds today?
Wait a minute, I'll tell you. Kiel Wilhelmshaven in the Channel Ports, 2-1. Gelsenkirchen, 7-1. Hamburg and Cologne, 8-1. All others, 10.
I'll have a 10 on the Channel Ports.
Okay, you're on.
You can see it's a reasonable target to spot, seeing that we've got the moonlight and these water landmarks. But anyway, I should send your two best men first with incendiaries.
In that case, I'll send in Phillips and Anderson first. They're my two best.
Yes, that'll do very well. The rest had better have AG. These tanks look as though they've got heavy concrete tops. And it's no good trying to draw their fire. They won't open up on you until they're sure you've found the target.
No, I don't suppose they will, Zon. There's bound to be an awful lot of stuff around there. There always is around that type of target. It's mostly light flak at that.
I think we'd better have a delayed action bomb in each bomb load. They won't be able to get near the place after that.
Very good, Zon.
You better send O'Reilly last to make sure. He's mad enough for anything.
Yes, very good, Zon.
What's up? Morning, Corporal. Here's today's orders. A and B flights to be operational. C for Charlie and R for Robert incendiaries. Rest 4 500s and 1,000 pounder.
What time takeoff, sir?
Around 7:30.
Very good, sir.
Oh, and there's a camera on you for Uncle. That'll mean a flash bomb.
Very good.
What's the target, Sarge?
Just me, boy. I know.
Have those barrels for F for Freddy gone over yet?
They got over, Sarge.
Okay.
Which turret do these gun barrels go, Jimmy? Front or rear?
They're for the rear turret, Bill. I'll be down in a minute.
Okay.
131.6, 19.6. 131.5, 18.5.
Wind is 22 miles an hour, 309 degrees.
Visibility 12 miles, 3/10 cumulus cloud at 3,000 feet.
Right.
Come in. Morning, Wilson.
Good morning, sir. Here's the information about tonight's target.
Good. Have we got sufficient dope on it, do you think?
Oh, I think plenty with the photographs.
Good. Right, well, I'll see you at the briefing this afternoon, then.
Yes, sir.
Sit down, please. We're on to a new target tonight, Freihausen.
It'll be roughhousing by the time we're through with it.
It's not as funny as you seem to think, Sergeant Calder. Happens to be an extremely important target. There's one thing first. Crew of F for Freddy. Dixon, you're captain. I want you to take Lee as wireless operator tonight and not Catford. Bad luck, Catford. So the crew will be Dixon, Willett, McPherson, Lee, Bell, and Harrison. The rest are unchanged. Now for your actual objective. As you will see from your target maps, it looks like an unimportant railway siding. In actual fact, as you will see from photographs, it's the site of a large oil dump. It's very well hidden amongst the trees, but there shouldn't be very much difficulty in finding the position. And your job tonight, my lads, is to find it and destroy it. Now Squad Leader Wilson will describe the target to you, and I'll say some more afterwards.
Put out the lights. This is your target. Oil storage at Freihausen. There are indications of considerable storage in the wood, here and here. But the principal feature is the accumulation of oil wagons on the sidings and barges on the river. The river, you will see from your target map, runs away to the north when it gets off the picture. The canal runs from east to west about 3 miles. I suggest that you make your bombing run parallel to the canal from east to west, and that will bring you straight up to the target. Other landmarks are the railway to the south of the canal with the bridge over the river half a mile south of the target. You can get your target maps from the clerk outside the door afterwards.
Any questions? Would it be okay to go in low tonight, sir? I'm coming to that. Phillips and Anderson, you're full of incendiaries tonight. You'll take off 1/4 of an hour before everybody else, and your job is to definitely locate the target and set the wood on fire.
Right, sir.
Take your time about it, because the others will be following you up. There's no reason for the rest of you to bomb the first fire that you come to. You must definitely locate the target before you bomb. After all, even Anderson can make mistakes. O'Reilly, you'll go in last and make sure.
Okay, I'll do that, sir.
Good man, but remember the tree's very high around the target. Method of attack for the rest of you, I leave to individual captains. As soon as the Hun knows that you found the target, you'll get the usual plentiful supply of flak. There's no good expecting an easy passage, because you won't get one. Remember, don't risk aircraft unnecessarily. Your main object is to bomb the target, and then to bring your aircraft back safely.
What's the Almendorf stuff say? Not much, sir. You'll find your bomb load written up there. One of the bombs in each aircraft is a delayed action. That is, with the exception of C and R. You don't need to worry about that. It's being taken care of in the section.
Right, what's the weatherman got to tell us this time?
Well, the weather should be favourable. Cloud increasing across the North Sea, but with breaks in it. Good visibility. Navigational winds northwest to 30 miles an hour at all heights. Risk of fog at base aerodrome towards dawn. The charts you can see upstairs afterwards.
Uncle.
How about signals? Wireless operators will get the call signs for tonight from me in my office. And don't forget, as you're well over the other side, you can usually get your bearing from bow if you're stuck.
That all, sir? Yes, I think it's a lot. You should say that, you know?
Yeah. Well, chaps, no doubt about it, we've got a good one for tonight. It should be fine, and with those water landmarks and the light, you should manage a good run up. Go in and flatten it, and good luck to you.
I'll go along and get the call signs and signals given.
Okay. We're going to have a look at the gun, sir.
All right, but don't...
Okay, sir, we'll be in the crew room on time.
Where's that Scotch navigator?
Coming, sir.
We'll go along and have a look at that course.
You owe me half a crown.
Mind it there.
Listen, I can't pay my mess bill, let alone you.
Well, neither can I. So...
All right. See me after the trip.
Righto.
You would remember that.
Hey, some klop's pinched my boots. Come on, pull your finger out. Where's my boots? Thank you. We had the heck of a party.
You may see a big cone of searchlights over here, but I shouldn't let it worry you.
What did you do?
Ooh, being a gentleman, I turned the other cheek.
She's a bit hefty, isn't she?
She is.
Oh, I see. And we'll probably see our other lads giving the Channel ports a bashing. But on the whole, we'll probably have a pretty clear run right into the target.
I'll give you a good long run up, and you'll have plenty of time to see the target. There'll be no need for a dummy run.
Yes, okay.
All from F for Freddy here.
I'm here anyway. Here, sir.
I'm here, Skipper.
Okay, sir. Okay, sir.
Well, that's a change anyway.
Tell him it's there!
It's there.
She goes.
Oh, my God. Where's my helmet? Where the devil's my helmet? Ah, there you are. Connect port, sir.
Anybody come through yet?
No, not yet.
Not yet. Right.
There you go. Right, transmit, please.
Hello, Control. Hello, Control. Path calling. Are you receiving me? Over.
Hello, flare path. Control answering. I am receiving you well. Over.
All right, transmit, please. Okay.
Hello, flare path. See Charlie calling flare path. May we taxi up and take off? May we taxi up and take off? Over.
All right, transmit, please. Hello, C. Charlie. Hello, C. Charlie. Path answering. Path answering. Yes, you may taxi out and take off. You may taxi out and take off. Over. Charlie airborne, sir. 19 hours, 35 minutes.
Anchor. Transmit, please. Hello, Control. Hello, Control. Report here. C. Charlie took off 1935. Over. Freddy. Hello, Freddy. Yes, you may take off. Off you go. Off you go. Over. Okay, chaps, we go.
Go for Freddy, off 1951, sir.
Thank you. Hello, rear gunner. Can you hear me?
I'm okay, Skipper.
Hello, front gunner. Can you hear me?
Okay, Skipper.
Hello, Mac. Gone to sleep yet?
No, I have not.
Hello, operator. Everything okay?
Well, it seems to be all here, sir.
Hello, second pilot. Ready to do some oil pumping?
That's all the second pilot's for.
Well, that's all right. Freihausen, here we come.
Hello, Mac. Where are we now, as though you're likely to know?
I can't find where we are. We're coming to Karlsruhe. Famous for its breweries, you know.
Good old Mac. Let's go down and smell its breath. Hello, everybody. Let me know if you see anything.
Hello, Skip. Searchlights and flank to the starboard quarter.
By gosh, so there is. The natives appear hostile.
Hello, Skipper. The target's about 50 miles upriver. I suggest we make a sweep and approach it down the river. We'll see the canal better then. Over to you.
Okay.
I can see the canal as plain as my face.
Okay, I'll turn around and check up. Any signs of life?
Not a thing, Skip.
I wonder where Andy is. He was going to light us in.
There go the incendiaries.
Alarm! Achtung! 11, 3 Viertel. 11, 3 Viertel. Heute 31. Horizont 31. Zündung 3,5. Zündung 3,5. Feuer! Feuer! He's right on the target. I can see the siding.
Okay, stand by. I'm going in a glide.
Can I strafe the flag, Skipper?
Yes, okay. Let's go the 1,000-pounder last, Mac.
Bomb doors open.
Bomb doors open.
Left, left. Steady.
Right.
Steady. Steady at that. Bomb's gone. bullseye with the last one.
Good man. Bag of nuts or a cigar?
Oh, I think I'll have a sandwich.
Hello, operator. Will you send the target bomb signal?
Okay, sir.
Okay, chaps, don't worry. Everything's all right. Anybody hurt?
The wireless operator's copped it.
Badly?
No, I don't think so. Only in the leg.
Okay, you take her over, Willow. She seems to be okay. Make height, but don't flog her.
An interrupted message map for Freddy, sir. Is this all we've got? Yes, sir. It suddenly stopped after giving the target bomb signal.
Oh, all right.
Well, how's it going?
C for Charlie and R for Robert are on their way back, sir. Several other aircraft have bombed the target.
Oh, good. Better mark F for Freddy over the target.
Very good, sir.
Hello, seen this? Not so good, Sam. Might be wireless failure, perhaps.
Let's hope so.
I can't get nothing on the set, sir. It's dead. Let me try, sir.
No, you keep quiet. We'll manage without it.
I say, Skipper, here a moment.
What's the trouble?
Oil pressure's dropping on the port engine. I can't make any height.
Losing any?
No, but I can't make any.
All right, I'll take over. You go back and look after the wireless operator.
Nothing more on F for Freddy, I'm afraid, sir. Afraid he is getting a bit late. How's the weather holding? Not too good, I think, but I'll go and find out.
Hello, Flare Path. Control calling. How is the weather, please? Over.
Hello, Control. Path answering. Visibility is now down to 500 yards. The mist is thickening. Over.
I was afraid of that.
Hello, Skipper. I've got a sight. We're about halfway to Harwich.
Okay, if I can keep her from losing any more height, then Bob's your uncle. Don't forget about our balloons, Mac.
The balloons?
And how's the invalid?
Oh, he's fine, but feeling awful cold. It's the shock, I expect. I had the same when I fell off my bike.
They're all down now, except for F. Freddy, of course.
All right. Call up the observer corps and see if they can give us a line on him.
Yes, all right, sir. And tell all aerodromes to be prepared to light up immediately in case Wellington comes over.
Yes,
Gentlemen, is good old England, and I must say I'm glad to see it.
Do you see what I see, Skipper?
And what do you see, my young Scottish friend?
Fog. Dirty, yellow, stinking fog.
Hello, Tom.
Come on, let's get out and have a look at the weather.
Good, Tom.
Get a breather at the same time. Hell's bells, just look at this muck. Hope Dixon gets a move on.
He's probably got engine trouble, of course, Tom. Wait a moment, Tom. Is that an aircraft?
Bless them all!
Charge your bog ramp! Stand still!
That's one all right.
Must be F. Freddy in that case, huh? I'll go straight down to the flare path.
Right, Herb.
Pay attention, everybody. We are over the aerodrome, but I can see practically nothing. The port engine is very rough. We could make a bit of height and jump out. Or we could have a stab at landing.
Let's try it, sir. I'd go in and land, sir. Try a landing, sir.
Have a crack at it, sir.
I'm over landing.
Okay, keep your fingers crossed.
Coming in now, sir.
Right, put the floodlight on, quickly.
Right, sir.
Put the junk light on!
Go and get an ambulance, will you? The operator's copped it.
Come in, Dixon. I hear you made a nice landing.
I hope we haven't kept you waiting, sir.
Good Lord, no. Come and sit down. Well, how'd you get on?
Well, we did a low-level attack. We were over the target at 23:45. Bombs were dropped at 23:53. The first 4 bombs, I'm afraid, fell short of the target, but the last one was a direct hit.
Yes,
that was the big one.
Yes, there was a smasher right onto it.
Caused a heck of a great big fire. Buckets of smoke. Visible, 50 miles away.
Near 90, I should say.
What colour?
Dullish red with black smoke.
That sounds like oil, all right.
I'm afraid I didn't see very much. I was rather busy at the time.
Right. Well, that seems to be all. Good show. Good night.
Good night.
Group intelligence, please. Intelligence Militant speaking. Tonight's operations. The objective is reached and heavily bombed. Large fires and explosions were seen. All our aircraft returned. I'll send you details in the morning. Good night.
Well, old boy, how about some bacon and eggs?
Apart from the air situation, which is the overriding factor, in particular, air action should be directed towards the reduction of the German air forces on the Western Front, the progressive destruction of the German economic system, and the undermining of German morale.
These are the actual words of the outline plan for the liberation of Europe. Such was the task which confronted the Allied Air Force. In 2 words, air superiority. For the RAF, D-Day was back in 1941, when our fighters, after winning the defensive battle of Britain, began to push their offensive sweeps deeper over enemy-occupied territory. When our bombers began to strike at the industrial centers of Germany. In 1942, the offensive mounted. In May, 1,000 bomber raids on the Ruhr and Rhineland, experiments in saturation bombing, which were to point the way to the great night battles of 1943. In August, Dieppe, where our fighters held the Luftwaffe back from the ground forces on the beaches and the shipping offshore. It was during 1942 also that another striking force was coming powerfully to our aid. The fortresses and liberators of the American 8th Air Force, soon to be followed by swarms of protective fighters. Throughout 1943, the early months of 1944, the air war grew to a climax. By day, German aircraft factories were pounded, and defending fighters were shot down in hundreds. By night, their heavy industries were blasted and burned. The enemy was forced to withdraw more of his guns, his aeroplanes, and his manpower from possible invasion areas to defend the Reich. By the autumn of 1943, the air situation was such the detailed planning for invasion could begin. The war against the Luftwaffe continued, with a new phase of the air plan opened. Air power applied in direct relation to the landing. A new command was formed, the Allied Expeditionary Air Force, with Air Chief Marshal Sir Trafford Lee Mallory in command, and the American Major General W.G. Butler as his deputy. The force consisted of the British 2nd Tactical Air Force of fighters, fighter bombers and light bombers, under Air Marshal Sir Arthur Cunningham, and the 9th American Air Force of medium bombers and fighters, under Major General Louis Brereton. There were also reconnaissance wings, a group of defensive fighters, a transport group, and a group for airborne operations. Such demands as might be made on the strategic heavy bombers of Air Chief Marshal Harris and General Spaatz were to be coordinated through the Deputy Supreme Commander, Air Chief Marshal Sir Arthur Tedder. To understand the work which these air forces were to do in the months before D-Day, we must examine for a moment the outline of the military plan. The intention was to make landings along the strip of coast between the mouth of the Orne River and the base of the Cherbourg Peninsula, to cut off the peninsula and to secure Cherbourg as a supply port. But the very reasons for choosing this plan made it all the more difficult to carry out. The Germans didn't believe we would choose this area, poor in supply ports, and a long way from our objective, Germany, in preference to the coast hard up, rich in ports, with a shorter channel crossing, and much nearer our goal. We relied on Allied air supremacy and our genius for amphibious operations to confound his calculations. But to land a fully trained and equipped force is one thing. To maintain a bridgehead and pour in supplies and reinforcements is another. Victory in the opening battles must go to the side which could concentrate the greatest force in the shortest time. For this purpose, the Germans had at their disposal the elaborate road and railway systems of northern France, the canals and rivers. The Allies would have to cross 100 miles of treacherous channel in boats small enough to run up on the flat beaches of Normandy. The project appeared impossible. The task of the Air Force was to redress the balance by paralyzing the enemy communications, and in particular by isolating the rectangle of France contained by the rivers Seine and Loire. And there was a surprise in store, a mobile port to be towed across the channel, one of the remarkable feats in the history of warfare. We had learned that railway lines and roads can quickly be repaired. So we must concentrate a great weight of bombs on the most vulnerable points. Marshalling yards, junctions, workshops, bridges, viaducts. This had to be done without giving the enemy any idea of where we were going to land. We must avoid to the utmost damage and casualties to the friendly civil population. By D-Day, out of 80 selected railway centers, 51 were out of action and 25 more were badly disorganized. 76 out of 80. To achieve this, 66,000 tons of bombs were dropped by British and American heavies and the lighter bombers of the Tactical and 9th Air Forces. The job of bridge busting was given mainly to the havocs and marauders of the American 9th Air Force. By D-Day, across the Seine between Paris and the sea, only one rail and 2 road bridges were left standing. At the same time, Bomber Command were blowing up the great enemy dumps of supplies and ammunition. then 9 weeks before D-Day, 2,655 German planes were destroyed in combat. We were passing from air superiority to air supremacy. In the south of England, huge armies were assembling, ideal targets for German aircraft. But none dared to come. Not a dozen reconnaissance planes crossed our coast. Yet a German soldier in France could hardly move without being photographed from the air. In the weeks before D-Day, part of the air attack was switched to targets in direct support of the impending landings. There were three main categories: coastal batteries, which threatened our seaborne armies; radar stations, which would give warning of the approaching armada; and enemy airfields, in which you could operate in the battle area at closer range than our own fighters based in England. These attacks still had to be spread to give no indication of the landing area. Tactical bombers, with the help of British and American heavies, dealt with the batteries and airfields. While fighters with bombs and rockets took on the radar station. At least 11 batteries in the vital area were destroyed before D-Day. Every radar station between Barfleur and Le Havre was dead, except one, and that only worked in timid spasms. The major role of the Allied air forces in preparing the invasion of Europe was finished. Since 1941, it had cost the Royal Air Force, with its British, Dominion, and Allied squadrons, as many casualties in killed, missing, and prisoners as the Imperial ground forces were to suffer in the first 3 months of the land campaign. The American air losses were proportionately heavy. The German gunners and coast defense troops along the Seine Bay were called very early on the morning of June the 6th by 8,500 tons of bombs dropped upon them by Lancasters and Halifaxes of Bomber Command, Fortresses and Liberators of the United States Air Force. At one blow, 10 more coastal batteries were destroyed. We couldn't deal with them before without making our plan obvious. This was the first time that Bomber Command had acted in close support of ground troops, and the results were so good that this technique was to see startling developments. During the early landings, the air forces were destined to play a protective role. Bostons laid smoke screens. Fighters swarmed over the beaches and shipping lanes, but the air preparation had been so thorough that enemy air interference was negligible. Other fighters, armed with cannon and rockets, gave any German troops rash enough to expose themselves a taste of the treatment they soon learned to dread. During the landing operations, and for many weeks before and after, Coastal Command kept watch on the Dutch and French Atlantic ports for U-boats and surface craft which were expected to break into the channel to harry our shipping lanes. Small convoys slipping down the coast to supplement the battered land communications were cannoned, rocketed and torpedoed by coastal bowfighters. An enemy destroyer sneaking in from the Atlantic along the Brittany coast, was forced ashore and destroyed. Liberators patrolled continuously on the watch for U-boats. When D-Day came, the German Navy stayed at home. As we had planned and hoped, the German command was deceived as to the point of landing. When they discovered their mistake, they were unable to rush reserves to the area in time to stop us making a firm bridgehead. The first and most dangerous phase was over. Now came the time to build up to the main assault. Airstrips must be provided for our short-range fighters. Airfield construction equipment, bulldozers, scrapers, levelers, were given a high priority in the stream of supplies crossing the channel. In a few hours, these great machines changed the country scene into wide tracts of runway with their maze of dispersal points and taxi tracks. Sometimes the work was done under the eyes of the enemy, who used the factory chimneys of Caen as observation posts. Pioneer Corps, sweating at their labors, were shelled and mortared. But the work went on. Pioneers and servicing commandos hastily dug trenches for protection and then got on with the job. The RAF regiment set up their guns round the perimeter. Dust was the greatest enemy, however. Fine powder dust that got into engine bearings and cannon breeches and betrayed every movement to the watching Germans. To overcome this, a new type of runway was laid. Known as the Stampflicker, a machine rolled down long strips of material stuck together with a sort of asphalt. But airstrips were only half the story. An air force, especially a tactical air force operating in close support of an army, is valueless without elaborate signals communications. Wireless plays a great part, but wireless signals can be tapped. Landlines are essential. This was the task of the air formation signals, Army men of the Royal Corps of Signals attached permanently to RAF formations. Farmhouses concealed telephone exchanges that would serve a fair-sized English town. Haystacks concealed batteries of teleprinters. Though shells and lorries and tanks and even enemy agents were continually breaking their lines, the system never broke down. To the men of the RAF and air formation signals, much of the credit must go for the closest Army-air coordination in the history of war. The Royal Air Force squadrons in France were composed entirely of fighters. Typhoons with rockets and bombs, Mustangs with bombs and cannon, Spitfires, mostly Canadian, with cannon. Their role was twofold: to harass the enemy and to protect our own troops from air attack. The job of air protection fell mainly on the Spitfires. The beachhead area, though secure, was very limited in depth, 3 or 4 miles in some places, 12 or 15 in others. Within this space was a great army, with tens of thousands of lorries and hundreds of thousands of tons of ammunition and supplies. Vehicles crowded the roads, radiator to tailboat. There was hardly a field or orchard that didn't serve as a camping ground or supply dump. Concealment was impossible. Above it all, the swirling columns of dust. Behind this ant heap lay the beaches, with thousands of craft plying to and fro, and the freighters lying out in the deeper water. 2 or 3 squadrons of fighter bombers could have reduced the whole scene to a shambles. When aircraft zoomed overhead, our men seldom bothered even to look up. Such was their confidence. The Typhoons and Spitfires had the task of harassing the enemy in the battle zone. The first essential was to deny to the Germans the freedom of movement we enjoyed ourselves. Already, thanks to the air preparation, he was being forced to detrain some of his reinforcements at Nancy, 250 miles away. Arriving in the battle area in bits and pieces, on foot, on bicycles, in vehicles and in tanks already in bad shape, the troops are subjected to a hail of rockets and cannon shells. Enemy movement ceased by day, and even by night, only the leafy bylanes could be used, thanks to our roving mosquitoes and bombers. To obtain the closest liaison between our armor and the air, a specially converted tank carrying signal equipment and an RAF officer advanced with our columns. When our troops met a tough position, this tank could call up the pilots of Typhoons waiting overhead and direct them down by visual observation onto their targets. In this way, German tanks and 88mm guns were often knocked out within a few minutes of making their presence known. The Hun knew no respite. During July, over 400 tanks and armored vehicles were destroyed. The Mustangs, with their wider range, were mainly used to bomb targets deeper behind the German lines. Barges bringing supplies up the Seine. Railway trains with ammunition, few as they were. Road junctions and troop concentration. Records of German telephone conversations found later are eloquent testimony to the effect of the air assault. Again and again, the High Command ordered, attack, attack. The answer came back, sorry, we are pinned down from the air. But it was impossible to prevent the enemy concentrating part of his forces and equipment. These he placed with great skill in a series of highly fortified belts. To attempt a frontal assault on these would have been costly in lives and equipment. It was decided to call in the help of the heavy bomber. At Caen, at Caumont, and twice during the advance from Caen to Falaise, the heavies came. In North Africa, fortresses and liberators had been used in tactical support of the armies, but it was something new for our Lancasters and Halifaxes to appear on the battlefield. The organization and tactics of Bomber Command were designed for bombing industrial areas by night. Now they were called upon to do pinpoint bombing largely by day. There was no room for error. The targets lay only a mile or so ahead of our own men. It was an essential part of the plan that our army should press into the enemy position before he recovered from the shock. Nor must our line of advance be created by heavy bombs. The right kind of bombs must go in exactly the right places. precision operation of great skill. Due to the lack of enemy fighters, the individual tactics of the night heavies could be employed by day. Indeed, they offered a less attractive target to the ground defenses than a close formation. Black bombers swarmed in the sky like rooks above a spinning. Probably the most remarkable of these attacks was that on Como. It was a foul morning for flying, thick grey cloud down to a few hundred feet. The Germans in their trenches must have felt secure. Suddenly, out of the murk, came a great Lancaster, hardly clearing the tops of the hill, and then another. Down went the indicator flares on the pinpoint. For 2 hours, the bombs rained. In one bound, our line moved forward 10 miles. With the American breakthrough on the right, the pincers began to close round the German 7th Army south of Falaise, which by now had been added a part of the 15th Army from the northeast. Why did they wait to be destroyed? Hitler's fanaticism may supply part of the answer, but the main explanation was that they were blind, deaf, and largely dumb. They didn't know how serious their position was. Blind because they couldn't risk reconnaissance aircraft. Deaf and dumb because their signals organization had been broken by our air attacks, especially those by light and medium bombers which destroyed headquarters buildings. By contrast, the Allied command was informed by our Mustang and Spitfire pilots of every move and concentration the enemy made. His intentions were frustrated before they ever took shape. A great victory was in the making. On August 17th, realizing the trap he was in, the enemy started a last desperate effort to break out to the east. It was the moment that our ground-stopping fighters had been waiting for. In 3 days, more than 5,000 vehicles were destroyed. For miles, the roads around Train-Chambois were piled with the remains of tanks, trucks, guns, carts, horses and men. Devastation and panic were complete. A French peasant who saw the flight told how, at the sound of aircraft, the Germans were terrified like rabbits, crushing their own men under their tanks. Dunkirk was avenged. The greatest German army in the West was shattered. The fleeing remnants had worse to come. The bridges over the Seine were down. Every attempt to collect barges or build pontoons had been dealt with by Typhoons and Mustangs. The conglomeration of men and transport collected on the western bank of the river opposite Rouen. Then the medium bombers struck. Bereft of equipment, on foot, in farm carts, the survivors of the German 7th Army struggled back towards the fatherland. Our armies pressed forward close behind them, eager to join in the last great battle on the frontiers of Germany. The air plan was paying dividends.
From the furthest bounds of the earth, From every quarter of the globe, they are drawn, men of the Dominions, India, and the Empire, to the proud ranks of the Royal Air Force. They are mustered in one of the mightiest fighting forces of all time. They themselves, by their share in the conflicts to come, will shed new luster on those traditions which already surround this young service. Young though it is, the Royal Air Force is already a service of great tradition. In the last war, as the Royal Flying Corps, it was part of the Army, and as such performed heroic work in the warfare of the trenches. Sopwith Camels, SE-5s, Bristol fighters, those were the buses in which the gallant young men of the RFC fought and observed and bombed. Just as the tradition of HMS Victory and the Fighting Temeraire inspire the modern steel-built Navy, so the glory of those old buses clings to the streamlined fighters and four-engine bombers of today. Quality of men and machine has always been the hallmark of the Royal Air Force, right through the difficult years when post-war economy ruled its plans and operations. Even then, its aircraft were superb for their time. The Hendon pageants were proof of that. In that period of restriction, the Schneider Trophy was won 3 times in succession by the RAF and became its property. Seaplanes streaking at 340 miles an hour indicated the enormous strides taken by aviation since the last war and its likely importance in the next. By a merciful providence, the new models developed from the Schneider Trophy seaplanes were just coming into production when the present World War began. The fact that quality has been the hallmark of the RAF becomes of infinite importance now that quantity is also demanded. It means that high standards of design and craftsmanship will inspire our mass production. Look at this array of Wellingtons. These lines of Whitleys. And Blenheim. The Beaufighter. And our four-engine bombers, the famous Stirling. And the Halifax. The British Empire is building up a tremendous bomber force designed as the offensive air weapon to smash the heart of Germany. We acknowledge with gratitude the contribution of the United States towards that crescendo. In particular, we thank America for the Lockheed Hudson. And the Flying Fortress. Beautiful aircraft, a tribute to the men who make them. There's also the question of manpower to fly them, so it's important that the high standard of recruit should be maintained and the efficiency of his training. Whenever you see an RAF plane in the sky, think of the men aboard her. Remember that the best aircraft in the world is a poor instrument without the skill and courage of her crew. Here's the scene as the bomber crew make their report.
You dropped all your bombs?
Yes, we put them down in one stick from east to west, right across the target.
Did you see any results?
Well, we'd seen a large fire about 25 miles away, and we were running up on Berlin.
And a similar scene as the fighter pilot tells his story.
Well, we were detailed for the fighters, actually, up above. And I got a cert 110.
Oh, nice work.
Saw the two chaps bail out.
And can't do better than that.
Yes, and one of their parachutes, unfortunately, or fortunately, didn't open.
Aha. If the bomber squadrons of the RAF are going to play a decisive part in winning the war, the fighter squadrons have already achieved eternal fame by their dauntless bravery in the months of the Empire's greatest danger. How magnificently those Hurricanes and Spitfires swept the air. How gloriously those few airmen rose to their immortal destiny. Men from Britain and Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, India, Rhodesia, every dominion, every colony was represented in that momentous sky battle which saved the motherland. There is still great work for them to do, but can we doubt that their supreme task was achieved then, when they won the Battle of Britain? Quality of men and machines won that great battle. The same superiority will win final victory. The following wonderful shots of Nazi convoys being attacked by Hurricanes are devastating proof of the growing might of the RAF in action.